Welcome to Precision Restoration. Today we're going to do a front light wiring harness on a 1970 Charger. We have the new harness we got from Classic Car Industries. One thing I want to point out, you'll notice that none of these wires are labeled. And when you get this fresh out of the bag, it doesn't give you your wiring instructions. So when you disassemble your old harness, make sure you have everything laid out pretty much where everything's going to go. And once you get it out, you can lay it side by side with your new harness to make sure everything matches up. A lot of times it's a good idea to take your pictures before you start so you can see what plug goes where. It helps a lot. So when working on a car, when you're not doing a full restoration, you'll find a lot of this. You'll find where customers have had aftermarket things added with these sloppy wires. Now, a lot of these wires we're going to be replacing, some of them we won't. When you don't, if you're doing it professionally, I do suggest cleaning it up. We'll sheathe all this up, make it look nice for the customer. So your first steps, I like to always see where your harnesses are going to run to before disconnecting everything so you don't forget what plug goes where. Obviously we're doing the front lighting harness, so check your lights. You got plugs here, here. Also runs underneath, under the front fender. Move the first main wiring harness off the firewall. As you'll see, you're going to immediately start to see where everything goes. Now again, when unhooking this, kind of let your wires hang where they should be. That helps you remember where everything's going to go. Very important when you're unlacing your factory wiring harness. It's a good idea to pay close attention to detail on the way that it's laced through here. That way you get it back to where it was lying before. Otherwise, your new harness is not going to line up where you are. Also, take your time. You might have missed a ground wire. If you start tugging on it too hard, you may end up ripping that ground wire and never finding where that wire went. All right. Let's get started lacing the new harness back into the engine bay. Remember, don't forget to rehook up all your grounds. Little tip, when running grounds, since they are screwed in, I always hold the bottom with a couple fingers, so when you tighten it, the wire itself doesn't twist. Another quick tip, all these little clips that you're going to run your wires into, just kind of run it along it. Don't snap them in there yet until you've got everything plugged in. See, most of your firewall harnesses are going to have a little nub in there, so you can't plug them in upside down. Now we're going to remove the bottom screws of both of our front indicator lights in order to feed the wiring through the fender for our marker lights. You don't have to fully remove this marker light. So a good point to make here is when doing external wiring, internal not so important because it's out of the weather, but for headlights, anything under the engine bay, we always like to pack these fittings with dielectric. Okay, we've got it all together. Everything's plugged in. The final step now is we're going to sheathe up all the aftermarket wiring for the customer. We'll get all this put in place and all of its clips up under the engine bay. Just get your wires inside there, tuck them in, start feeding it through. These terminal ends are kind of raggedy. So you'll see these all the time. You can buy these at your local parts store with the bolt-on. We're going to go ahead and we're going to do factory style with soldering ends, heat shrink, etc. So obviously first thing you're going to do, put your cable on out. Snip these off, nice clean cut. Try to make them as even as possible since you are putting them inside the terminal. They're going to need to be somewhat even. So since we're using a torch, you want to make sure that all your fuel lines are sealed up, no open fuel lines.